Alright, I'm gonna make this video. And I was on the fence on whether I was gonna actually go ahead and actually record this. But given I've gone through it now, I thought it might be worth just making a video of it. I thought while I'm in one of these scenarios, I thought, well, let's just record it. So yesterday I basically had and I'm gonna try and keep this very, very low. So hopefully I can hear this. I can hopefully hear this when I'm editing this. No, I'll just increase the volume. Yesterday was my first ever date. First ever. I'm currently 26 and I've never had any kind of experience. And yeah, yesterday was my first ever time going through that experience. And overall, it was good. You know, there were things to take away from it. I knew that I wasn't going to be the greatest. And part of my insecurities was around just, you know, trying to impress the person and, you know, being afraid of like, I'm not sure if it's being vulnerable, just like trying to be myself, basically. I didn't want to like go in there and not be myself. So how it all happened was I met this person on an app. We matched. Well, actually, technically, yeah, we matched. I don't know why I said that, but yeah, we matched. I, within a very short duration, just went straight in, just asked for the number, asked to meet up in person, because I'm not really much of a big texter. And within that duration of, like, I think we scheduled it like 1 week in advance. And during that period, we were talking long text back and forth. My goodness, that took so much time. I'm looking back on that. In 1 week, we just like did the lengthy text messages, and even despite me saying I'm not really a fan of it, it was a bit mad, a bit crazy. And on the day, and to be perfectly honest, and this is just kind of on me, like when I matched with this person, was I really interested in this person on a attraction level? I'll probably say no. And I look back and I'm thinking to myself, if that's true, then why did I go through all the hassle just to do that? Because to meet this person, I had to commute. My commute to get to that person or their location was 3 hours. And that's not total. That's 3 hours to the location and 3 hours back. So 6 hours I basically used to travel. And my mentality was, you know what? It's the first time ever going through this experience. I can take the hit. So hopefully I had part of the reason why I was able to get through that commute was just because I had my ebook with me. But in the actual experience, the first initial minute was it kind of felt like an out of body experience because I've never had this experience before, so I was very confused. So I felt very uncomfortable. I felt very awkward with myself just because of that. And actually, I remember, so we basically met at the station. We called an Uber. We called an Uber to a restaurant, a reservation, an Italian place. I could be honest, that felt mad awkward because preferably I would just prefer just walking around, maybe doing some engaging activity, or at least walking around just talking. But first thing we did was sat down next to each other in a restaurant. It was like, what's going on? It felt well weird. It felt very weird. But I think when we got out and then we walked around the city, sat down in parks, talked, and yeah, it's not much to say. But I am happy with the fact that looking back on that, I did get to be myself. There were instances where I did refrain from certain things. So when this person was saying, "Oh, I don't eat these kind of meat," I was insecure at the fact that, oh, does that mean I can't eat that? Maybe I could have been a bit more upfront and say, is that going to be a problem if I eat that? And yeah, and towards the very end, like, mind you, this whole thing, and this is the thing, right? This whole experience was like 7 hours. And 7 hours, that's a long time. And by the end of it, I was fatigued. I was exhausted. And I remember, this is 7 hours in the area. I have an additional 3 hours to get back to home. That means by the end of it, I was completely knackered. I think I've done at minimum 20k steps. I just want to get back home. I had no interest of like, I had no interest of seeing this person again. So, but that's when I go on and yeah. And towards the very end, I was fatigued. I got a quick bite to eat. And it was even more awkward because I got myself, so basically we went to this Greek place. I got myself around. I got 2 wraps. I was thinking that the other person would eat it, but they didn't. But to be fair, they never asked. I just assumed. So I just basically wasted £8. That's right, £8 for a wrap. I'm mad. So I munched. I remember when I got on the coach, having 2 wraps. I'm like a monk, bro. So I ate the one on the coach. Rushed that, so it felt very uncomfortable. Then when I go on the coach and go on the train, I was like, what am I meant to do? I was like deeping, what am I meant to do with this wrap? With this other wrap? So in the end, I just chucked it. I thought there's no point me leaving it for leftovers because I said it didn't really hit my food palate, to be perfectly honest. And also I was just thinking, I spoke to a mate, just wasn't entirely sure what to do. I woke up today, so yesterday happened, today is right now. I decided that, because in my mind I was thinking to myself, I wasn't interested. I personally wasn't interested. And then here's the thing, right? It was a situation where it's like, they were a nice person, no hard feelings or anything. It just there wasn't really that, I wasn't really into them, I wasn't really attracted. And my initial thing was, let's just ghost them. That was my initial thing. I spoke to 2 friends and they basically just said, just be more upfront about it. Just say it. Just say you're not interested. Hell, ask Google, ask ChatGPT. Just basically, just get to the point. Just be honest, be upfront, and just basically don't waste each other's time, right? But what ended up happening was when I thought, okay, I knew roughly what I was going to say. I think one of the key ones anyway was because, but I just basically was going to say like, the location just wasn't really. I'm not really looking for someone who's like that far away, because that was a mission in of itself. But I don't see that ever happening. But when I went round to actually contact that person, I ended up finding out they actually are matched with me. So we're like in the situation. It's like, we both felt the same. We both felt the same. Like, but at the same time, it was a bit of a shock. But there we go. So that was the whole experience. But what would it like improve? What were the things that I would have done differently? And I think this is where the important bit comes in. That was a little bit of a story. What would the takeaways from it? Number one, I would probably stick to my local area. I think that'd be a lot more convenient because then it would just make seeing them, whether it be after work or whatever, a lot more convenient. The other thing is, I actually do think being true to myself, that was pretty fundamental. But the improvement is like, don't be afraid to say some controversial things. If don't be afraid of like just revealing parts of yourself at the expense of like having some kind of conflict or disagreement. Don't be afraid to do that, because it's better to know these things now than to like basically keep these things away and then for that, you know what I mean? Just be upfront about who you are. Give the whole picture. If there's conflicts, there's conflicts. At least we know that from the very beginning, not 5 years, 10 years into this, 7 hours is too long. I would preferably would like to have done that a bit more shorter. So for example, let's say 3 hours, 3 hours here, and then the rest of the hour is just for me. It's just me time, just me chilling. Because because the whole experience, it's basically 7 hours plus 6, so 6 hours of commuting. That's 13 hours of yesterday just devoted just for this one person. I'm like, nah, man, that's not great. What else? I personally wouldn't do. I'm not sure how I feel with the whole restaurant thing, because it just seems a bit boring. And plus, the other thing that was so awkward was like when I'm eating, it was like hard to eat while talking. So there were so many instances while we were eating where I had food in my mouth and I was like, I ended up talking while having food in my mouth. It was just so awkward. And sitting in a table in that kind of setting, it was like a posh environment. I'm thinking, this isn't the kind of environment this isn't the greatest environment. I think it's more like, I would probably have done that on like on the 3rd or 5th date. Not first. Personally, if it was the first, I would probably have just skipped that, go straight to the walks, do something more interactive. You know, I mean, a pub is not too bad, too bad, but this person doesn't drink, so fair enough. Doing something like, I don't know, mini golf or an arcade, something that's a bit more interactive, a bit more fun. You know, not just sitting at a table. You know, I mean, in certain places or certain cultures, sure, you might do that. It's completely off, but for me, it just like it was a weird vibe, especially on the first date. That was actually what I thought. I think just going with the flow and just walking, doing maybe something a little bit more interactive. Yeah, sure. What else? I think the other thing I was like, big props to myself in reflection was, towards the very end, I not once did I mention, and I think this is where, yeah, I never once mentioned the possibility of a second one, because basically this person was like, oh, how did you find, because I've traveled free, based on the fact I'd said I traveled 3 hours to get to that place, I was in a complete different county or whatever you want to call it, a different place, different location. That person like was saying, oh, you know, I hope you enjoyed it and all that stuff. I was that person who was just like, I was like, yeah, no, it was nice, but I didn't want to mention returning the favor in terms of, if you come to my area, I'll give you a. So I'm thinking, no, I don't want to see you. Personally, in the back of my mind, so I didn't mention anything about that. And the relief of the day, unfortunately, that for me personally was when I got on the coach and it moved. That was nice. And the thing that was even worse was that, so my ticket to get back was like at 7:30. I told this person, oh, my ticket's at 7, hoping that we can go our separate ways. I at least have half an hour to myself to just walk around the area, just in my own presence. But what ended up happening was, this person walked me to the station, and what's even worse is that there was a queue to actually hop on board to the bus. I was basically just making a joke saying, you don't have to wait for me to be here. And it was a queue, and she was literally standing there, and I thought, bro, at the back of my mind thinking, go away, because I can dip. Now, some people may be watching that, thinking, isn't that someone who's caring? Isn't that someone who's nice? I look back and I think, yeah, that's nice and everything, you know, and I appreciate that. But there's just that, you know, I kind of just, I wanted to at least have a bit of privacy, at least a bit of me time before I left the location. I wanted to at least have a little bit. That was my idea. That was why I just said I was hoping to leave half an hour early and just have that half an hour to myself. Yeah, so yeah, they are a nice person, all due respect, right? But yeah, it felt very weird. And yeah, so I would have done that a bit differently. I probably would have just I think what I would have probably have done is like, rather than saying go to the station, because the thing was, this person, as soon as the only reason this person walked away was as soon as I hopped on the coach, I couldn't like think of an excuse. Like the only thing I could have done, hindsight, is just say, hey, I'm gonna be another boy. I'm gonna be another friend. You know, I'm not, you know, let's part ways here and then we'll dip. That would have been so much easier, and then I could have just gone on with my own way, have my own little journey and just like call it a day. But yeah, it was overall cool. And like today, again, the other thing is like, if it's not, and yeah, sorry, I'll say my thing as well. It's like, it all comes back to what I said towards the beginning. If I knew from the very beginning if I wasn't going to be interested in this person, why go through the hassle? Why go through all the trouble? Because the thing was, I paid tickets to get there, 3-hour commute. I paid for the food. I paid for the lunch and everything. And I did that because obviously I don't regret any of it. All the money I spent on that, there's no regrets. You know, I'll probably do the same thing on the next day. Like I was basically brought up to basically say, just when it comes to these kind of things, I always be the one as the man, just pay for the lunch and all that. Expensive, but yeah, just how it is. But I think I just would have. Oh, sorry, I think I just lost train of thought. Just trying to think what I was going to say. Yeah, no. I basically will say, yeah, I spent a lot of money on this, but again, I just don't regret anything. But yeah, but in terms of today, yeah, having the courage. Oh, that's it. Yeah, I would probably be a bit more stricter on the apps. If I'm not interested in this person, at least at attraction level, then I'm wasting my time. And here's the key. I'm not saying I'm looking for like a 10 out of 10. I'm not looking for a model. I'm not looking for some beauty queen or any of that. No. But I do think there has to be some element of attraction. I'll be honest, when I was sitting next to this person close up, there was no desire to advance or be intimate. There was nothing there. And I'm not saying, I know, I'm not talking about the spark or the chemistry. I'm not talking about that. I'm more talking about like, do I actually find this person attractive when I look at it? It just didn't feel it for me. And I knew that from the pictures. And that's why I'm like, I could have actually avoided all this if I just not gone through it. But that's the tendency of what my psyche was, especially when I was using the apps. Just for background, I haven't gotten very successful results on these apps. So whenever I do get a response back, when I do like someone, it's usually not in the best frame of mind. It's usually when I talk, it just, you're talking because I think in my mind I was a bit desperate, a bit lonely. But I think now moving forward, it's just like, as soon as I realize someone who's going to, because then again with this person, I think there was one instance when we were talking where I could have just cut it off because their response to one of my questions was just very cocky and I just did not like it one bit. But I kept moving forward, and despite getting the experience, I am glad this did not work out. I'm very glad. But moving forward, I'm not going to go through that same mistake again. I think moving forward, if someone says the wrong thing, I'm just going to unmatch. Because that's exactly what's happened to. I've been on the other side of that. If I say the wrong thing, they don't say anything bad. They just match me. It's what it is. That's just part of the game. We'll just do the same thing. You move on. It's a lot more simpler and it's a lot more cost effective. I'd rather go on and most importantly, I would much prefer just, again, location's kind of important. So if I realize that you're in like 2 hours away, I'm like, nah, probably not. But yeah, I wanted to talk about it. It's been a good one. It's been a good experience all around. I think one of the things I'll probably keep emphasizing is, number one, keep true to yourself. Number two, take the time to get to know the person and make sure it's a two-sided conversation, because don't be that person who's always talking about himself. Because to be fair, I definitely caught myself in the habit of like talking good about myself. So I definitely caught myself in that trap. But the other thing I thought was worth raising as well was like, when it came to the conversation I had with this person, up until like for the last couple of days, I know for a fact I was definitely full on and just trying to, I don't know, it just felt very deep. It was a deep conversation. It was like basically digging myself into a hole. So it was one of those situations like by the time it came to the actual day, it was very hard for me to make excuse. I'm thinking, we spoke all this time. I invested a lot of time into this. So it's like, to be honest, I should have just been that person who's just like, let's just arrange a date. Let's just arrange a date and that's it, move on. Because that's kind of how I've been with my other friends. When it comes to when we talk on WhatsApp, it's basically like, hey, are you free down to meet up? Are you free on this day? They say yeah. That's it. And then the next time we speak, it's actually on the day. It is as that simple. And I thought that could have been so much more effective. Then if something happens, then we can just like move on and we don't have to like go through this back and forth. Because I definitely caught myself. This person was messaging so many times, and that I even bluntly said like, I just didn't have the time to reply to all your messages. Like when it came to actually arranging the ticket, arranging all the arrangements and all that good stuff, I basically had to say I just didn't have the time to read your messages. So I was like, oh, sorry, I can't read your messages. I'll try and respond soon. But it was it was a back and forth. It was a very, there was a lot of time invested. But for me, I would just be like, let's just set a date and we'll meet there. But and here's the key, right? I'm only gonna be asking for that because again, I wanted to practice the idea of getting rejected, just practicing the idea of just like getting straight to the point, and most importantly, just just I guess it's just for more for experience. But yeah, when it came to this person, I didn't really see too much of their pictures. But when I again reviewed the pictures on the day, I was telling my mate, I thought to myself, I know I'm not going to be interested in this person. To be honest, on that day, I kind of cringed. I'm thinking, why the frick did I do that? But that's the key, right? And I can probably explain it. It's like more because I was like desperate, narrow-minded, and the fact that I didn't have many options. So whenever I had an option, my mind, I amplify it, I communicate, and just to fill in the void of the fact that trying to fill in this void, because I felt lonely in the dating department, right? So even when I look back and I think sometimes I question my choices, I'm thinking, because a similar situation happened on the app where I connected with someone, I had a call with them, and I was planning to meet them, and I just basically just said I just wasn't interested. Because again, I just wasn't into them attractively. I mean, on an attraction level. But again, the question arose: if that is true, then why did you go through it? Why did you interact with this person from the very beginning? And the answer again was because of the fact that I had not much of any option. So when I had an option, irrespective of whether it was a good option or not, I clenched it. I tried to make the most of it. And then when it came to the actual day when things are actually real, it's real life, that's where you realize, that's when reality hits you and you're like, what am I doing? This isn't it. And that's personally that's kind of what happened. So it's just, I think it's like, to those who are using the apps, who are going through the similar thing as me, and if you're also someone like me who's not really getting many results, don't kind of lower your standards and don't get blindsided whenever you do actually get an interaction, you actually do get validation or someone who's actually who might have some interest in you. Because at the end of the day, if you're not into them, then you're just wasting each other's time, in my personal opinion. And yeah, and again, it could take months, it could take a year, it could take longer than that. It might not even happen. The thing I'll say is like, if it happens, it happens. And it's funny, I remember talking to this person about apps in general. I just said, it's just an avenue. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's as simple as that. And whether it happens is out of our control. Don't dismiss that. But at the same time, don't let it be the only option, if you see what I mean. So you're like, oh, someone interacts with you and you're like, oh, this is the best I can do. This is the only thing I can see. Don't lower your standards and don't just get blindsided so easily, because trust me, it is absolutely brutal when you've invested a good amount of time on someone you're not interested in. And I think that was kind of what happened in this case. So it is a tendency, and that's just, at least for me anyway, I just wanted to share my perspective. Anyone who's listening, at the end of the day, we're all human. You'll learn from it. And again, in terms of yesterday, despite having my insecurities and just despite being incredibly nervous, I still put myself out there and I still went for it, and it was myself. And that's why it was a good experience. There were things for me to take away from it that I've just noted down, and hopefully in the next time, in the next future, I'll be a lot more better. But again, it is essentially a process. And the other thing is like just understanding what I truly want in that kind of thing. Like, how you meant to know what you want if you don't put yourself out there. So I don't regret yesterday, but I wouldn't repeat what happened. The circumstances and all of that. Even if that means waiting like 3 months or even more than that, to eventually find someone, so be it. Ladies and gentlemen, that's my story. And I'm out. And then it's funny because I'm gonna get roasted for the fact that my first video was basically saying I'm not gonna make a video on this topic. And alas, here we are. Here we are. But it was one of the key milestones for me, and that's why I wanted to record it. The date is the 2nd of May 2024. I'm 26. And just another for context, I've never had a relationship. That's why it will be quite interesting just to share this moment. And yeah, oh, did I mention the fact that? Yeah, I think I did mention the fact that the person unmatched me. So that's not why I'm making this video, just to like process what's going on. But basically, the fact that both of us like basically unmatched or ghosted each other. I was gonna, yeah, but that there was no communication ever since we both left, and it's now the next morning. Basically speaks volumes as to the fact that it wasn't gonna work. And you know, but what was funny is before I got on the coach, she told me, message me when you get home. When I got home, I didn't do it. I didn't do that. I was like, I'm probably not gonna probably message you. That was me being a wuss. But then, yeah, the next day, and then actually turns out she was the one who first matched me on the app. But there you go. That's just how it is. All right, I'm out. Peace. This is gonna be a long video, but I hope it's worth it. There was something I just wanted to add to this, just food for thought. And it was just more to do with the fact that on reflecting on this whole experience, now it's been a couple of hours since I've last processed everything that's happened. I want to say that I'm hugely proud of the fact that despite what the outcome wasn't the best outcome, I still was true to myself. And I'm very grateful that I wasn't trying to be someone I wasn't. And I'm grateful that, and the other lesson really is, not everyone in this world is going to like me. I think the same will go for other people, right? But at least in my case, in terms of my personality and all those things, I don't, I'm not going to be attracting every single person. There will be people who won't like me, and there will be people who are not attracted to me. That's just how it is. But as long as I stay true to myself, then I will eventually find someone who is attracted to me for who I am, not trying to be someone I wasn't. And in terms of this whole experience, I'm very grateful to have that reality, because even though when I did record that video, I might have said like, have this ego when I was like, oh, happy happy that it didn't go the way I wanted to go and all these things, thinking that, oh, I wasn't interested anyway. But it just comes to show that, that not everyone's going to be attracted to me. And to be honest, and this is again me and my ego, I thought how I was on the date yesterday, I thought I was like on point, and I thought I was absolutely great. I was thinking that I'm the one who had to make the choice, and I was thinking, oh, do I want to continue to see this person? But really taking into consideration how the other person feels about me. Are they compatible with me? And here we are. And it's just a good lesson just to slap my ego and just come to reality that not every single person that I come across is going to be attracted to me, and that's just what it is. So yeah, and most importantly, if I was to go through, and when I do go through more dates in the future, if I'm not into someone, just be open about it and be straight up, as opposed to wasting each other's time. But be warned, there will be people out there who are going to waste your time. That's kind of why I sift through those people and just get straight to just meeting them in person. That's how I operate. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm out. That's it. Peace.